Thank you very much. I appreciate it. One question, and I kind of asked it a little bit earlier to many of them. How many in the room here are from Hamilton or have lived in Hamilton, say, about 20 or 25 years? Look at that. That's pretty good. To you people, I'd say thank you very much. And I say thank you very much from the perspective of what me as an economic development director for the city have to work with here. People look at a community and there's always, regardless of the community, there's always going to be flaws on what you see, the good, the bad. But when you really take a look at Hamilton, the one thing that I've noticed is that, people say it's got good bones. And what they essentially mean by that is it's got a lot of positive attributes that make it very good for people like myself as an economic developer. I always say that when you're in economic development, you aren't looking for a perfect community. The reason why I say that is because a perfect community doesn't need an economic developer. You're looking for a perfect opportunity, and that's what I viewed Hamilton as being very much a perfect opportunity. And what I've been able to really gather, primarily since I've been here, there's been a lot of local support. Unlike any other city, and I told you earlier that I worked in other cities and other states, but this is a city that, and God bless every one of you, because it sure makes my job a lot easier and a lot more rewarding. People love this community and they want to see this community do well. They're great cheerleaders for this community. And so from that perspective, I say thank you, because I'm not having to fight my local residents on issues. They're just saying keep going, and it makes my job a lot easier, and it certainly makes it a lot more rewarding. You take a look at, and this is what I'd almost call our recipe for the city of Hamilton, our economic development success. I'd say right up into the top corner there, it says elected leadership and city staff. All of these coming together really is what I would say, in any city I've ever worked for, by far this has been the best organized, and really when we had a game plan, being able to carry out the game plan, but a well-defined plan, the vision, the strategy, and the commitment. Dedication of resources is another thing too. It's no great, it's really not an easy position or an easy job to do if what you have is a great plan and everyone agrees it's a great plan, but you've devoted no resources to carry out that plan. It's a recipe for failure. But the one thing that I would say is measurements. Measurements is something that I think something that we've really gotten with the city, that's really ingrained with the staff and our elected officials. It's really trying to point out, okay, we've got this plan here, and we've got a strategy to carry it out. When we're carrying this plan out, what are our measurements? What are the outcomes? And our city manager is Joshua Smith's. He is the guy he's done a remarkable job for the city, and I think that's very unanimous amongst the residents here. But the one thing that he always says is, own the outcomes. And what he means by that is, it's great to have a plan, it's great to have meetings, have a ton of meetings, but it's measurements, and that's the outcome. That's your outcome. What is it that we're trying to achieve? It's not having a bunch of meetings, it's that measurement. And I think you'll see as we go through this that having a very well-defined plan, the strategy and resources, and key right up there, elected leadership and city staff, that has made a remarkable difference for the city. I talk about economic development from a number of different perspectives, and if you look down at the bottom there, there's our economic development staff. We're the ones that get to do all the bowing and when we land a project and you read about us in the paper. But if you look up in here, you'll see the city departments and other economic development agencies. These are people that we work with literally on every project. And really our economic development staff and our city administration views the economic development team as literally all of our departments, because you can create or attract all the jobs in the world, but are those people going to locate their business to Hamilton? Well, if a lot of these guys aren't doing their jobs, the answer is pretty simple, that they probably won't. And when everyone does their job, and with the assistance of these organizations here, that's how I'd say we're a bunch of cogs that are working well together. We're meshing very well. So while you might see people like myself quoted in the paper, make no mistake, there's a lot of people that are involved in the success that we're experiencing in the city of Hamilton. These are some of the companies that we have in the last several years located to Hamilton. The latest one was Barclays, and their credit card servicing call center. They're a multinational corporation, absolutely very, very large banking interest in Europe. StarTech, you've read about what's happened in them locating in the former Elder Beerman building in downtown. OTW Logistics is another one. They started with 2 people in our incubator, the old City Hall building downtown. They're up to, I think, around 35 people. And in recent, just actually a few months ago, they announced that over the next 3 years, they're going to be creating another 40 positions. As you can see, you look down here and you see a number of names, some that you're familiar with and some that you aren't. But what I think is really key to the success of any community is bringing in new companies. That's pretty great. But I also think that what speaks well of a community is when you have expansions, and expansions of your existing companies, because no company is going to expand in a community that they don't believe they're going to be successful. You take a look at that level of capital investment as well. That is a very, very large number. And with 3,130 jobs in the last three years, that's it's really amazing. And I say it's really amazing, and I say that because I've never experienced it professionally. The other thing that I would say is that, that one picture with all the cogs working together, that's how things happen. Truly, it's a good team of people in a lot of different levels. Sometimes you're called upon for a larger role in a prospect. I've had companies come out where, to be quite honest with you, we'd get them to the city, and it might very well be that they spend about 80% of the time talking to my electric utility guys because they're a big electric user. I'm gladly hand it over to them because we have great utility guys, and when they can talk the talk and they speak to these prospects in a manner that they understand, they're looking for specific information. That's why I say all of our departments truly are working well together. That's one I touched on a little bit. The one downtown, the former Elder Beerman building. We will eventually come up with a different name for that building. That was a very good project for us, especially considering that, we engaged a developer early on in the process, and once the core fund is a organization run by Mike Dingledine. He's the executive director, but you have the organization is membership. It's an organization that was formed by U.S. Bank, First Financial, the Community Foundation, and the city. Primarily have the most money into the core foundation, and what it did is, for a while there we had issues when we'd meet with a prospect, being able to get the prospect into the building and be able to see what we had. Part of the reason why is, like, the owner of this building lived in New York. They really it was part of their real estate portfolio, and it really just wasn't that important in the grand scheme of things. Very important to us because of the visibility of the building and what we thought it could be. So we used the core to acquire buildings like this. Now what you see is an art gallery that's going in there. You got a Kettering clinic going in there, and the Jackson's Market grocery store that's going in there. The second floor is devoted strictly to StarTech. StarTech this is the one, they don't allow me to take many pictures. They don't want, we got in there to take a picture. That's about as much as they would allow us to take. It's has to do with being very private about what they do and how they do what they do, and not kind of tipping the scales and letting people know how they're successful. But this is a great opportunity. 682 new jobs going into our downtown, which was very much a big deal for us. 15.7 million in new payroll. What I like about this, and I say a lot of these projects have benefit other than just strictly the obvious, the new jobs, new payroll. This is a company that's going in at a time when we're trying to revive our downtown again, bring our downtown back, and you get some professional people locating in your downtown, and suddenly you've got them using your stores, attending your restaurants, and it's just activity. Activity begins to breed activity. And this was very much a big deal for us. It was one of those projects that almost didn't happen. The original location that they looked at, the deal kind of fell apart. And I got a call one day from their real estate vice president. He said, our deal at the other location they're looking at fell apart. Can you help me? I need a place to store a bunch of these cubicles. They have them on a semi. They're heading up this way. They kind of thought they had the location nailed down. It didn't work out. And I said, yeah, I think we've got a place for you. We own a building, control a building downtown, and you can store them there. I feel real bad. The deal fell apart. But not a problem. Go ahead, store the stuff in the basement there. They've got a dock you can just pull in. They can unload. It'll be great for you guys. And I said, oh, and by the way, when you're in the building, you should really kind of walk around that building, because that would make out just perfect space for you guys. It would be absolutely perfect space. He said, great. And then all of a sudden I got a call on a Saturday. It was Saturday morning, and some guy called me up and said, hey, we're coming to town next week. We're going to look at that space in the building. And showed up on a Thursday for 2 days of meetings. And I tell you, the deal was, by the time Friday came, the deal was done. They were ready to sign, ready to go. Mike Dingledine had stuff set up in a manner that showed them how the space could be used based upon specs that they had used in other call centers, and they were kind of like flabbergasted. And that's why I say, when I show you all those people that are involved in economic development, you understand when people come in like that and they're flabbergasted because you've got the answers before they even ask the questions.
it's gratifying. It means you're doing what you need to do. The next day, the Friday, we show up at a meeting. They come into City Hall. I've got all my electric guys and my utility guys sitting around the table, and they ask me, they kind of thought they were just meeting with a couple of people, and I bet there's 20-some people in a room, and I wanted anyone that could answer a question on anything present for that meeting. And they said, they looked around and they kind of said, wow, this is quite a lot of attention that you're giving us. It's like, we just want to make sure whatever question you had. So they kept throwing out questions, and our guys, they know this stuff like, I mean, like it were, you know, something they sleep with it under their pillow at night, and it absorbs in their head somehow. It's amazing. By the time they asked all their questions, the one guy, he was determined, he was representing them, and I suppose he had to show his worth to them. So he said, okay, you answered all these questions, that's great, but you got all these people around the table. How are you going to convince us that you got all these people here today we locate in the city? How are you going to convince us that you're going to be here the next time we call on you? And my simple answer was, most of the development that we've had in the city has been expansions. Many of them have been expansions. On one slide, 7 new businesses, 6 expansions. In the last couple of years have been expansion. People do not expand in a city, they're not happy. And I said, so we'll gladly give you contact information for people that have expanded in the city, but we have a feeling that you're going to hear much of what you hear from us today. Like I said, that deal was put together very quickly, and a lot of people were involved in it. This is another great example of, you know, our utility guys solving problems when there is a problem. You know, it's 18 months to get a transformer, but our guys said, you know, how about if we do this, this, and this? We can get them in there so that when they need power to that building, they've got power. It's like, it's problem solving. That's the one thing that I'd say that our staff's gotten, I say staff, the city staff, gotten really good at is problem solving. Go to Claycard and talk about that. Like I said, each one of these projects has a lot of uniqueness to them. This was a building that's, you know, a former headquarters for a paper company, and it's really a great commodity for the city to have. The problem that we've had is it is very big. And you know, after 2008, when the real estate market kind of tanked, there was a lot of empty office space in the metro area here. And that was just one of those big buildings amongst many of the other ones in the metro area. We currently have a Cyrus One and a Kroger data center in the far side up in this area right here. But that office complex, you've got Amstan that's in there. They're a logistics company. There's about 77 people that work there. One of the wings has a Kroger call center. They announced when they did a bunch of consolidation of resources that they were going to be moving a number of their positions to their new Blue Ash facility. So we, you know, the whole time all this is happening, we've got Barclays that we've been working with. We started working with them in December. They visited Hamilton in December. I think they were, to be honest with you, I don't think they were necessarily looking for a building. We helped them find the building. They really came to look to see what a call center looked like in this part of the world, because they have a call center in Henderson, Nevada, and they have another one up in Maine, but they really kind of wanted to see what a call center would look like in this region. So by the time they came out and met with us. They'd already had previous meetings. I think they had viewed one other call center. They came out to look at the Kroger call center because at the time Kroger's call center was in there. They just wanted to see what one looked like in this part of the world. Well, we got them in the building and we didn't let them go. And we just brought them in and we showed them, hey, this is a pretty good building, and you let Vora staff go, and man, those guys can sell that building like nobody's business. It is a very complex building, has a lot of infrastructure that's very important to that industry. And they had actually meetings set up after ours. They were really only going to come out for a half hour. They ended up calling ahead and canceled the rest of their meetings for that day, and they spent time walking around this building and really getting a handle on what this building was. You know, at the end of July, they announced they were locating a center in Southwest Ohio, and in August they announced that Hamilton was the location that they were looking at. So 1,500 jobs in a lot of different ways that you come about these things, but once again, it's a lot of different people doing a lot of jobs, in everyone doing their own part and being good at doing their own part. That's a very large payroll, $50 million. What we probably, I'll say it this way, much like in the case of thyssenkrupp Bilstein, when they've expanded, they started out with, I don't know, maybe with about 150 employees when they first located to the city. By the time they're done with this current expansion that they're going to have about 600 employees in our community. That's incredible growth, very quick. But once again, it's like the relationship that they've had with the surrounding area in the city allows for these expansions to take place. And I would say this is probably another one of those types of businesses. I envision that if we do our job, that the 1,500 employees that they will be ramping up to in 3 years, that'll be over 2,000. I know that there's other aspects of their operation that they're looking at, and if we do our job and we're the type of people and the type of community that they find success in, I have a feeling there will be more jobs coming with this company as well. As I mentioned earlier, OTW Logistics, they started out in our incubator, our business incubator. Two guys broke off from a company and started their own company. They were busting at the seams. They knew what they were doing. They're very good at what they do. But they were in our incubator downtown. They were literally covering, they were just moving from office to office in there. It just really, I felt bad for them. They had like offices that looked like closets because they were trying to use as much of the space as they could on the floors. They were just growing so rapidly. Their owner met with the city, and they're actually a subsidiary of a company out of Columbus. And I thought when we met with them, we were just looking at space on the 6th floor of the city building, and government services, state workman's comp had moved out of there probably about maybe 4 or 5 months prior to that. They too are consolidating their services. But we met with them, and I thought they just wanted to look at the space. And I later found out, I didn't later find out, I found out real quickly, they were essentially interviewing us to determine whether or not they were going to expand the company, bring the company up to Columbus, or if they were going to expand it in the city of Hamilton. That was an interview for about, it was a good hour and a half, and afterwards, the owner of the company here, we're walking back to the other gentleman's car, and he said, "Well, you guys did a good job." And I said, thanks, I appreciate that. And he goes, no, you guys really did do a good job, because when he came in, he was really going to tell you guys that they're moving. And he's done a complete 180, and they're going to be, they want to get the lease worked out and signed and get to work. This company is very important to us from a number of perspectives. Not only is it in our downtown core, but the people that they're hiring, for a while they were hiring one person a month, one new person a month. And that was before they made the 40-person commitment. And the reason why I say it's very important for us is because they're recruiting people directly out of college. Literally, they're going up to Miami University, and these people, they're bringing some of that youth back down and back to the city. When you look at workforce and how important workforce has become nowadays, especially in economic development, I don't remember this personally, but I know this generation of people, the millennials, are highly sought after. You hear about cities that are really targeting millennials because they understand that there are people that are highly skilled, and not only are they highly skilled, but the workforce is shrinking. There are going to be cities in the United States that will lose companies because they can't attract a workforce, not because of any other reason than that. And I've experienced that when I was a developer in the state of Iowa. Case New Holland was one of the companies that built tractors and stuff like that. And the one thing they were just scared of was they knew that about 50% of the current workforce at that company was going to retire like within the next, it was like 5 to 6 years. And they had no clue where that next group of people to replace them was going to come from. That's very scary. That's how you lose companies, and it isn't for any other reason than they can't attract a workforce. So when we talk about workforce around here and we get new young people that are going to be in the workforce for a long time, that's how very important it is. It adds a different dimension. There are people, especially with companies like this, that are going to be good consumers. They're fresh out of college, and these jobs here, we're starting at about $50,000 a person, and fresh out of college, not too bad. I would have loved that, fresh out of college. Those people have discretionary income. They'll help the local economy. There'll also be people that hopefully we get living here, moving here, and raising their family here as well. That's just the 6th floor and really how they transformed it. It's very interesting. These pod areas, the way they have it set up is, and once again, it's about communication. It's the way people communicate. In the old days, everyone wanted their own office. Now you see the office environment totally on very high level. Businesses are completely opening up their floors, and you have this open space and just so much more communication that takes place, and people getting understanding what each other are doing, and there's a lot more collaboration amongst employees. But I remember he was explaining this setup, and I'm thinking, gosh, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'd like people listening to a lot of stuff I say. But it seems to work real well for them, and they've done a remarkable job. I can't remember how many hundreds of thousands of dollars they put into their build out there, but based upon the build out there, it leads me to believe that they plan to be there for a good long time. And they've got space to grow into as well. So we're very, very happy with that catch as well. And who could forget this building? This, Jeff, I'm going to tell you, I did have a picture that was taken from the inside, but I know someone snuck in and took one because I had like 2 slides for every one of these projects, but I didn't dare put it on here. I thought, we've got the ribbon cutting and everything coming up, I better not show. He'll be very upset with me. this is very much a catalytic project. We talked to Jeff and his people that are on his board. This means a lot for the city, especially in the downtown area, when you have people that are saying that we think that your downtown is a good place for our corporate environment. And I know that it wasn't necessarily an easy sell. I mean, Jeff, you kind of made some, your board and yourself really got in kind of at the front of this, but what a major difference this is for the city. Absolutely gorgeous building, and I have sneaked inside and looked at some of the space. I just didn't take pictures, that's all. Absolutely amazing, and it's something that, you know, a lot of times you'll see the city guys walking around downtown. We're always walking by buildings, walking in buildings. People, we were in your place the other day, we had some developers in town, and we walked them in the building there, but you had a lot of stuff going on, so we just showed them this, but it speaks volumes. I mean, projects like this and other ones that have taken place really help us attract other developers as well, because a lot of developers, people that know the city and hopefully what's occurring in the city, know and have a better feeling about the success of their project. But if you're a stranger to the area, you're probably not wanting to be the first one in. You see projects like this and some of the other ones downtown, you're gonna know that you aren't the first one in. You might just be joining a pretty good party that's going on there. And we've got a lot of neat things happening in our downtown. This, I can't tell you how much it really stands out. It speaks volumes because people do ask, especially developers. They want to know why. Why did they do this? Well, we have a pretty good idea of why, and they believe in what's happening in our downtown business district. And I can show you that one, I could show you some other ones, and I can tell you about this building and what we're doing there and what's gonna happen here. And pretty soon they begin to work their head around it a little bit, and they understand that there is something pretty amazing going on. I've worked in a number of states, and cities in a number of states, and I'm a big observer of how development occurs. I've never in my lifetime, I've been in the business over 20 years now, I've never seen something happen so quickly in a city. And you might have seen this happen maybe in mid-2000 or something like that, when it was a lot easier to get financing and stuff like this. But after 2008, that changed dramatically, and it became a lot more difficult to finance projects. This is a great example of, you know, people trying to figure out how to make stuff work, and it's not as conventional as it used to be, but a lot of things come together. And this, I mean, like I said, this is just a great project for us. I always marvel when I look at these structures and I see people that they put together things that I never see. I'd look at the building, it looked like a building to me, you know. It was always a nice looking building, but the way they have, I mean, when you guys, I'm sure when you do the open house, just on the 15th, is that correct?
Ribbon cutting is the 15th, and their open house is the next month.
Very neat. It's just remarkable how that's transformed and how we're reusing our buildings. Great project for us. We talked a little bit about workforce earlier. Really, you know, once again, it's partnerships. It's all about partnerships. And this is what gives me heartburn here a little bit. I've got an arrow that's pointing into the city. I've got, and this is from 2000 census, that's the best information that we have, but I've got 17,534 people that are driving into my city to work every day. And I've got 16,593 that live in the city and drive out to work. And I've got 4,199 people that live and work in the city. That's got to change. I mean, really from our perspective, especially with the jobs that we're bringing here, they're better, much better paying jobs. They're people that can afford, they're gonna be good consumers, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna be buying property. I need more people living here. And that's why you see a lot of the initiatives that are being done through the land bank and through the park system. It's gotta be, I've gotta change that 17,000, and I could probably live with 8,000. I don't ever want to change the number. The only number I want to see is I want to slice that in half and make that 4,000 number of people that live and work here. I want more of that. And that's what I would like to see is because the jobs are here. And we're doing a good job. It's just getting people to live and work here. That's something that we're really spending a lot of time on. But you look, these are our partnerships. As like I said, as the labor market begins to get really tight, how is it that we work with these organizations to make sure that we've got a well-educated workforce that are viewed as an asset to our companies? We will partner with anybody because that's going to be a major differentiator for economic development going forward. I was at a conference a couple years ago, it was last year actually, down in Texas, and one of the breakout sessions was on workforce, and went in and sat down, and the person that was giving this seminar said, he said, take a look around the room. This is a seminar on workforce. Now think about 5-6 years ago, if this exact same seminar was being given at a conference, the space, I mean, you could hear an echo in the room back then because people just weren't addressing it. It wasn't as pressing a matter. That place was standing room only, this breakout room that they're giving a seminar on, because everybody understands it is a major factor going forward on attracting and keeping your companies. And workforce development, education, how we educate our next workforce is going to play a huge role in any community's success. This I wanted to kind of just touch on a little bit, only because I'm glad I was here when this happened. This is a very big project from what I'm able to gather, and one that's been talked about since 1911. It's the South Hamilton Crossings project that goes over the railroad tracks, Grand Avenue, into actually right by the Vora Park campus there, and the university, or Miami University campus. But, you know, about a year ago, actually, you know, all the plans were done, all the engineering's done, we're moving forward with this thing. The thing we hadn't quite figured out is where the money was gonna come from. We knew what the amount of money it was going to take to do the project, and we knew it was going to be a pretty spendy project. It is literally a $30 million project. We knew that it needed to be done. It had to be done. We'd gotten to the point where we'd gotten some allocations through OKI and some other organizations to help finance this, but we had a pretty large gap last January. Ended up getting $10 million funding from the state through their program. That happened in February. In September here, we're going to get another sub-allocation, $3.8 million, and with the Barclays project. The Barclays project, like I said, all of these things have kind of a ripple effect. Not only is it going to, occupy a building, but it helped us attract additional funding for other projects that we had. That's going to bring in nearly $5 million more, and that was really our gap for that project after that $10 million allocation that we received last February. So we are very excited about this. This is moving forward as planned, as scheduled. It is on schedule. And it's going to be nice to have been here for a project that really has been talked about for quite some time. And man, I've never lived by so many railroad track crossings in my entire life. You people are extremely patient people because I've only been here 3.5 years and I don't know how you guys have done it. Hopefully this will help alleviate some of that, but something we're very excited about. Another thing, small businesses popping up in our district. You can see some of that. A lot of that is happening. Once again, it's when one thing happens, it's almost like I'd almost say it's almost like I use the analogy. It's almost like a domino. And once one of those things topples, and then the next thing happens, and next thing you know, it's like, you know, this happens. We have some other things going on as well, but you see some of this stuff that is now coming back to our core district, and you know, what are the things that we're going to do to help these businesses out? That'll be another challenge for us as well, but a nice challenge to have. I just wanted to touch on this as I've got 2 more slides here, this being one. The first phase has already been completed, the amphitheater here, and the second phase, we had a great benefactor that gave money that helped us jumpstart this next phase of this project. But once again, it's like, okay, all of this is really good stuff, and it's absolutely beautiful. And if you go to the concerts down there, I just get very excited because people really enjoy the infrastructure there. But a project like that then brings about something like this here. Now, right across the street there is also property that the city owns, and we've been working with a developer on a project there. And I'll leave you this as my teaser, is I think by the end of the year we will have an announcement for something at that site as well. Very, very close. You see the YMCA up at the top there, and this is the park that's being worked on there, River's Edge. I feel pretty confident that we're going to have another project that will locate there, and you bring some more housing down into the core district. All of a sudden it helps the businesses, whether it be the major employers or whether it be the restaurants or services. They all kind of go hand in hand, and you just have to understand it's like a teeter-totter. It goes back and forth, and you know, when you're high on one end, you got to provide those services on the other end, and there is a bit of a kind of a juggling act for that, but I feel very confident that we will be doing something at that site soon.
Jody, we thank you for taking time. Obviously, if all of you haven't heard or read about these projects, it's quite impressive. The passion that you and city staff have is just absolutely outstanding. I think you're working about 22 hours a day right now. But thank you very much for taking time today and sharing.